Hi, I'm Calan Lamont. I race for Flex Motorsport in the National Kart Cup. This weekend we were racing at Kimbolton, which wasn't part of the NKC rounds, but we felt we needed to do some extra practice because it was the end of the championship and we wanted to do some rounds before we got into winter testing. On the Saturday we had 6 practice sessions. In the first one it was just about trying to get used to the track again, haven't been there for a while. So the first session didn't want too on the pace. Well, pretty much every braking zone's on a wet patch, but you get to the apex and you just get grip. So you just have to trust that it'll turn in when it gets to the apex. In the lunch break, we had to change engines because Brian asked us to try this one. He thought it was probably a bit faster. So we did that and we found probably 2 or 3 tenths, which has got us closer to the target time that we needed. And when we changed engines, you could see, well, the managers could see the difference it was making just from watching. But in the car it feels, you get a much better drive out of the corners, so you're getting more acceleration. And the top end, even that was improved as well. And normally it's just a payoff between having one or the other. But trying the different engine, we found top end and bottom end speed. As well as changing the engines, we also have the advantage of being able to try different tyres, because on the Saturday you're only using old practice tyres that you don't want to use for the race, because you want to save your best tyres for the race obviously. So you know going into the Sunday that you've still got a bit more time to find, just purely changing tyres. On the Saturday you just need to get used to having less grip than you normally would, which is also, you need to judge your braking slightly different and your throttle coming out of the corners, because you know that obviously the grip's not going to be there when it will on the Sunday. On the Sunday, we started off with a 3-minute practice, which is where you just go out and you're getting used to the conditions on the track, because it's a different day and the track should feel a bit different to the Saturday. We didn't really do too well, but it doesn't really matter. The pace isn't too important, it's just about bedding the tyres in and feeling where the grip is. You have the heats, so you start in random positions, but it should even itself out over the day, because if you start near the front in one, you'll start near the back in the second one. We started 9th in Heat 1, which isn't too bad to be starting from. It gives you the inside line to turn on as well. Going into Heat 1, didn't have too much confidence with it because I didn't feel like I had the car in the right place. Turn 1 is always a difficult one to get through because of the nature of it. It's quite tight and everyone's just going flying into it. So the main goal is just to try and make it out of there regardless of the position. You just need to sort of survive, which I managed to do quite well. I think I came out around 6th or 7th, so I made a few positions off the start. With only a few laps left, I was in a pack of about 4 karts. The leader had completely gone, so the lead was out of the question. But we made a move on the last lap on the guy in second, and it was just about trying to hold that for the rest of the lap, just to get it across the finish line. I was very happy with the second until when we came into the pits. I found I've got a drop down bumper, and that is what you get when if you hit the back of someone else, your bumper will like dislodge itself, so the marshals can see that and they'll give you a 5-second penalty, regardless of when you did it or how you've done it. And I had realised I did it on the warm-up lap when we were all quite close to each other and people are like trying to warm the tyres up, so they're accelerating and braking, and I'd gone into the back of the guy in front so that's where I got the drop down, and we thought that was going to put us probably down to 15th or somewhere around there, but luckily it only put us down to 8th, so it wasn't too bad, and it still gave us a good overall points finish for the final. Luckily after heat 1 we didn't have any damage apart from the bumper, which we had to sort out, but that's a quick job. And you have around an hour and a half, so it's quite a while between heats, so normally you can use that time to either talk to the teammates.
What did you do, sorry, Calan? 435. Oh, that's interesting. I was 10th faster than you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually. Yeah.
I also speak to Steve in between the heats, who's my mechanic, and we work together to try and find the right setup and everything. In between the heats you also find out where you're going to start for the next one. I was starting 18th for heat 2, so obviously that's a lot of places to try and make up. We made a pretty decent start, got through turn 1 alright, made probably 2 or 3 positions into about 15th. Then you just have to once again settle into it, but still be looking for the moves. And sometimes you'll come out of turn 1, and in this occasion there was quite a big gap to the cars in front, so you have to try and work together with the people around you. And we made our way up to 11th by the end, but I wasn't too happy with the way the race had gone, even though I made about 8 positions up, but the pace didn't feel too solid, and I was constantly having to defend from the people behind at the end of the race. After heat 2 we had a bit of a longer break because the finals are 12 minutes plus 1 lap, so obviously every single class that goes out they're taking a bit longer, so we used that time to just sort of have a lunch, relax a bit. But you could see there was a bit of weather coming in, and we didn't think it would be too much for trouble. It wasn't looking too threatening for us. You could see the dark clouds were coming, the grip was going on the track because the temperature was dropping. Then about half an hour before our race it started drizzling slightly, which wasn't too much of a worry. You can still stay on your slick tyres. The weather was quite unpredictable, and it stopped raining, so we thought it should dry out in time for our race, so we didn't make a decision yet on the tyres. As we went into the dummy grids, which is where you go with about 5 minutes to go before the race, the rain was not really coming down much anymore, so we decided we needed to change to more sort of intermediate tyre. Going into the final, I was starting 8th because I finished 8th in the first heat and 11th, which sort of gives you an aggregate position. This gave me the right side of the track to be able to go down the inside of people into turn 1. So we got a good launch off the start, made up a few into turn 1 already actually, we got up to about 6th. Then I made one more move down into the chicane, so I was up to 5th, which felt quite good. But the track was drying out by this point because the rain had completely stopped, and obviously as the cars are going around that creates a dry line. We just had to settle into the race at this point, just trying to keep the lap times consistent and not make any mistakes in the rain, which is a lot easier to do and harder to correct once you've already made the mistake. We had a big gap in front but a big gap behind, so there wasn't too much to do. I knew I wouldn't be able to make any more positions up in front, but I was probably safe behind as well to any attacks. But you do want to keep the pace up just in case anyone in front has any problems, or they might have a drop down bumper, which means they'll get the 5-second penalty. About halfway through the race we still had pretty decent pace, but we definitely weren't catching the people in front, and I noticed there was one car behind me that broke away from the pack and was catching up to me. The guy behind me was very fast. I knew this because he was second in the British Championship, so I knew we would have the good pace and a good setup to be able to catch. So I was just trying to keep it on the track and not make any mistakes, but I could see he was catching me quite a lot. When he was getting close to me, I saw he had the pace on me, so I didn't want to get in the way too much, otherwise I might result having a crash, which you don't want in the rain. So once he'd got in front, he just caught up to the guys in front of us. After that I was just still trying to keep the times consistent. I didn't have any threat now behind, so I knew I'd be safe to that. But I just had no pace to be able to catch anyone in front. We crossed the line in 7th, so I was very happy with this result, considering I hadn't been to the track in quite a while, and we didn't really have the pace in the final to keep up. But it was good points. Not that we were in the championship, but it just proves that you've got the pace to be able to compete at that level.
It's a bit ironic because it was then told us, obviously you can do it on purpose.
Once we came into the pits, we got the car up on the trolley, took it back to the awning, and we found that in the rush of trying to change the tyres, we'd fitted one rear tyre from the really wet set and one from the intermediate set. So this obviously caused quite an imbalance in the grip on your rear tyres, which is especially important because it's where all the power was going through. So it changes how you accelerate now the corners. It gives you instability if you've got different grip on each side. So this sort of explains the lack of pace in that race. Not fully, because obviously it didn't make too much of a difference, but it's probably costing two or three tenths a lap. But this sometimes happens if you're rushing about and you're just trying to get out in time. And yes, I made the mistake of putting the wrong tyres on. I was happy overall with the weekend. We had the pace to be up at the front with some of the quickest people in the country, so it proved that I can compete at that level, so I was happy with the results. Throughout the weekend I was getting help I had Mitch and Matty and Ricky and obviously Brian. Mitch was especially helpful as he's a fast driver and he knows a lot, he has a lot of experience, so I learned a lot from him. Overall the whole team had a good result across the board. The final was tricky because of the wet conditions and people not knowing what to do, so that's sort of just down to luck on what you're going to get out of that one. Over the whole weekend it's just nice being able to speak to the teammates about other things apart from racing, like either football or the Formula 1 or anything, so it just helps you wind down from the weekend a bit. At the end of the day, everyone helps put the team awning away, so we're all talking and chatting about what's happened today, and if you've had a bad day, everyone comes and supports you and just gives you a little boost, but congratulates you if you've done well. So it's a very good atmosphere you'd have in the team, and yeah, it's enjoyable to be part of a team. After Kimbolton, we go straight into the National Kart Cup, which is 6 rounds. It starts in March at GYG, which is in Wales. But the Kimbolton race, it sort of gives you the chance to assess where you are and hopefully make that next step to be able to finish in the podium more times and get a good position in the championship at the National Kart Cup.